Okay, so this is the first lesson on the series of lessons about argument. That's the type of text. That doesn't mean argument as in somebody's going to have a fight or anything like that. What argument means is that you're discussing something, and you might mention ideas on one side which support or which agree with what you're discussing, and then you might present ideas which disagree. So usually the argument, the title, as you can see, starts with the word should, because what we're saying is, do you think it's a good idea if? That's basically what should means. So do you think it's a good idea if children would be allowed to stay up late? So this is staying up. Oh, pardon me. So this is staying up, not going to bed, maybe going to bed much later than they normally should be. So the first feature, the key first feature, is that you've got to have what is the argument about. It must be in the form of a question, and it must be a closed question. Now, a closed question is a question where the answer could be yes or it could be no, as simple as that. Okay. Now, let's have a look at some more of the features. First of all, another feature rather, is that the text is factual. It's true. It's not made up. We're not talking about Harry Potter or Goldilocks and the Three Bears or anything like that. We're talking about something which is factual, something which hopefully has got something to do with you. Okay, the first, just like in most non-fiction texts, the first paragraph, the first sentence and a couple of sentences is the introduction, and that tells the reader what's going on. So as you can see, this is saying, this is telling the reader that this is an argument about whether children should go to bed early or late or sometime in between. So that's basically it. So the introduction is usually very straightforward. Okay. Then we move on. Now, in different types of texts, oops, there we go. In different types of texts, it might be arranged in different ways, but usually the first few paragraphs are saying, yes, we agree with what the question says. And then the next few paragraphs, which are sort of hidden down here, the next few are to do with disagreeing. So firstly we agree, and then we disagree. So some people, let's just try this again. So some people say that children do not spend enough time talking to their family. That's a very simple sentence, very straightforward. Then we've got another sentence which backs that up. So you've got the initial sentence and then another sentence to say, well, here's a bit more detail about the first sentence. And the second sentence, if they were allowed to stay up late, comma, obviously, don't forget the comma, boys and girls. If they were allowed to stay up late, this will give them time to do this. Now the word this is a pronoun because this relates to what we've just been talking about, talking to their family. So in that paragraph, now remember a paragraph can be 2 or 3 or 4 sentences, it doesn't have to be loads and loads. So in that paragraph we're basically saying yes to the question at the top. So what I'll do is I will highlight it in green to show you that this is a paragraph which is saying yes, we think it's a good idea. In the next paragraph, we're going to talk about another reason why it's a good idea. Okay, so we've got the first paragraph just here and the second paragraph, both to do with supporting the argument. So let's move that down. So another thing that they're talking about is it will give children more time. Let's just do this. It would give children more time to do their homework without rushing. I'm sure you've all been in that situation where you got home and then you have to go out somewhere, or you have to do something, or maybe some family's coming round, and then all of a sudden the time has gone quickly, and then you realise, oh my goodness, it's now time for bed, but you haven't done your homework. Well, if you were allowed to stay up late, which is what the argument says, then you wouldn't have these problems. So that's a reason. And then don't forget, whenever you give a reason, you always have to give more details to say, well, why is that reason important? Okay, and here we're saying homework's important, and if children go to bed early, they might not get enough time to do that. So in the first sentence we're saying yes, they should stay up late because of homework, and then in the second sentence, which is in grey, they're saying why is homework important? So that paragraph all supports the argument. So that paragraph is basically saying yes to the question at the top, should they be allowed to stay up late? So once again, I am going to highlight that in green to show you that it supports the argument. Now, because this paragraph under here is supporting this paragraph up here, then what we need is a connective to join them together. Actually, when I say what we need, you don't actually need it. So if I were to do this like that, and then obviously change that to a capital letter, that is perfectly okay. However, we are year 4 children, we're not year 3s or 2 children, so therefore we are going to put this in. Now this is a connective because it connects the paragraph that we're writing in to the paragraph above, and on Wednesday I'll do a lesson which tells you more about connectives in a bit more detail. It's an addition connective because we are adding to the paragraph above. Okay, so we've got in addition to this. Now I'm going to leave that in white so that you can tell that it's the addition connective bit, but the rest of the paragraph is in green. So, so far then, we've got the title of the text, which is usually a question. We've got a very, very short introduction, nothing more than 2 sentences. And then we've got one paragraph which says, yes, here's a good reason why we should do this. We've got a second paragraph which says, well, here's another good reason why we should do this. And then we've got finally an addition connective to join the two together, those two. Right, the next paragraph. Now, if you wanted to, you could write 3 or 4 paragraphs to say, yes, we should do this. But in our text, we're only going to write 2. So let's move down. Now what we're going to do is start to talk about the reasons why we shouldn't let children stay up late. Okay, so we've got here, there are many reasons why they should go to bed early. Okay, and then the most important is that children need a good night's sleep. And don't forget, whenever you write a sentence, it's always a good idea to explain that sentence. Sleep is needed to enable the body to rest and recover. Also, the brain sorts things out that have been going on during the day. So, just to recap, we're saying, first of all, we're saying there's many reasons why children should go to bed early. One of them is that word there, sleep. And then what we've done in the next couple of sentences, we've spent a little bit of time explaining why sleep is very, very important. Okay, so all of that paragraph is answering the question, should they be allowed to stay up late? It's answering no, they should not. Okay. Now, something that I've not really mentioned here is this word here, however. The reason we need however is it kind of warns the reader, because in this paragraph up here, we're talking about, whoops, get rid of that, we're talking about answering the question yes. And now in this paragraph down here, we're talking about answering the question no. So therefore, we need the word however to warn the reader that we're going to completely change what they're going to hear. Okay. Now, that's one reason why not. Another reason is to do with television. Okay, as it says, if children stay up late, they might be tempted to watch television. Okay, well, what's the big deal? Don't forget, whenever you mention a sentence, it's always a good idea to explain that sentence. And here's the explanation. Television after 9 p.m. is certainly not suitable for children because there's lots of naughty words in it, boys and girls. Okay, so this is another reason why, if we ask the question, should children be allowed to stay up late? The answer is no. So those two, in fact, if I shrink that down, now I know it makes the text a bit more difficult to see, but we can now see the whole of the text. We've got the introduction, we've got 2 reasons why we say yes to the question, we've got 2 reasons why we say no to the question, and then finally we've got the conclusion. Now let's make that a little bigger. The conclusion, it's a bit like the introduction. It's not, to be honest, it's not that important. It's the kind of the small bit at the end. And really, we're not saying anything new, as you can see. So, extra time with the family, because that's one of the arguments for saying yes, they should. And then reduced amount of sleep, and that's one of the arguments for saying no, they should not have be allowed to stay up late. And then it's always important to have this question at the end. What do you think? What's your opinion? What do you believe the answer to this question might be? What we remember what we're doing in this in this text, we're not telling them the answer. Okay, if we go back to this, the questions, it's a question: should children be allowed to stay up late? And what we're doing is we are presenting, here's some reasons why the answer is yes, here's some reasons why the answer is no, but it's up to you. It's up to you who's reading it to decide which you think is the correct answer. Okay, that's it. Take care.